The leadership programs at East-West Center have evolved and branched out since 2000 when they started. It's really a continuation of the East-West Center's larger mission of creating a more peaceful, prosperous, and just Asia-Pacific. And that mission continues through the leadership programs. It includes environmental leadership institutes, an Asia-Pacific leadership program, Pacific Island leadership program, and other customized programs for different groups, short-term, long-term, here in Hawaii, residential, as well as in countries across Asia Pacific. And more recently working specifically with women's leadership development. When we do leadership trainings at East-West Center, we have a process that we go through that starts with people understanding themselves, self-awareness and self-knowledge, exploring their values, their personal mission, what they want their legacy to be. And they move from that into sharing with peers and in trios, having an intimate conversation with other diverse people within their cohort with diverse backgrounds and learning from them. And then we move to struggle with leadership dilemmas, looking at challenges that are bigger than one person can solve or one community. And in that we dig into trade-offs and looking back to your own values and how that should inform the decisions you make with your teams.
And one of our favorite cases we love to use is the case of the Morgan family and Kualoa Ranch. Because we find this is a merger of private enterprise, market-based ideas with conservation, long-term vision, and legacy and environmental impact that most people aren't thinking about merging at the time that they come to us. So we find it's a case study that really changes the way they think about conservation and who can contribute and how we can contribute to conservation.
In 1850, the parcel of land that is right around the headquarters here, from the big ridge that comes down over there, if you step outside, all the way down to the end of the ridge here out to the ocean, was the king's personal property. And so the king sold it to my great-great-great-grandfather. The property passed down through the generations till it came down to us. And of course, growing up here and having that kind of a legacy behind that, my father, bestowed upon us a mean sense of responsibility. Is that this is an incredible piece of property, and the whole mission that we have is to try and preserve it as much like we got it as possible. There's a number of different threats that can come at us, and we feel very strongly that if we continue to own the property, then we can maintain that same attitude and try to preserve it as much as we possibly can.
So basically, I've been working with the East-West Center for, maybe about four or 5 years now. Because of personal situations, I have not worked. And when our manager asked us whether or not if I would come in and work with the East-West Center, I told them I would. And this is probably the only group I would come in for. I was pretty impressed with the group. The group is very different from your typical visitor. The typical visitor would just take everything out at surface value, whereas the East-West Center fellows, when they got here, they sort of appreciated what we were trying to do and the reasons we were trying to do things. And they came up with some pretty good ideas of how they would do things if they were running the place. So it was very interesting.
So one of the tricky parts about our program is that we invest so much in trying to impart knowledge and skills to them. But what we find in our alumni reviews, that what they remember most, in fact, are the relationships that they cultivated while they're in the program. Subsequently, we have used that to create more of a cohort model where we have them passionately working together as well as training each other with us. And so we take a backseat role, we provide all the tools to them, but we help them learn how to establish those strong relationships. But what we find when they come to the East-West Center is that they're around like-minded folks who are ambitious and worry about big things that no one person can address. So subsequently, we designed our curriculum also around those challenges, because it's their one chance to be around folks who are ambitious and desire to tackle those big things. or the one time in their life. So those groups bond, they come together and find, wow, there really are like-minded people, and I need to keep this in mind when I go home and hopefully continue to impact change.
It's very important to us that they understand in leadership development, that we all understand that it's context-based. So coming in as a leader to fix something large can only be done if you really understand the context. And that's why we take them into environments, see the case. So actually see the mountains, see the land, or see the very intense social issues that are happening in that community, and then ask, what are those leaders doing in that particular situation? So the transferable lesson there is being a context-based leader and understanding place and a knowledge of that place before you jump in and act.